to go back with the element, there's a lot of medieval fantasy, it seemed like, in this. At the end of episode 2, Ahsoka fights some guy that looks like he's wearing Maximilian fluted arme helmet and Maximilian style armor.
Oh yeah.
And to me, that was so jarring that like I knew exactly what type of armor that was. You know, it looked like this.
Oh yeah.
Kind of fluting and stuff like this. And that was so jarring to me, even though it kind of went with the, why are they doing this medieval fantasy theme? I knew exactly what armor inspired that. It came clearly from our history. And I was like, why do they have, I thought it was a robot in the beginning. Like, why do they have one of the droids that's wearing Maximilian fluted armor, other than they had this inspiration from medieval fantasy for some reason? And so that completely took me out of it. Why was that there? And then he draws the whirling lightsaber. So apparently he's supposed to be some type of Inquisitor, but I'm also not a fan of the Inquisitors because I didn't experience them. Yeah, I guess they showed up in the Clone Wars and Rebels, so they've been around, but they weren't a part of Rebels. So they weren't a part of Star Wars that I was attached to. And the Inquisitors, to me, in general, seem like a patch. This is one of those world-building patches. Whenever they show up that I've seen, it's like, well, we got this problem that we got 2 Sith. We got Darth Vader, and one of them is the Emperor anyway. So he's not, the Emperor's not going to be running around fighting things. So we got Darth Vader, and we can't really use Darth Vader because he needs to be the end boss. But aren't lightsabers cool? We should have Force users because they're cool. And don't we need to have them fighting Jedi because that would be cool? So you get this idea of the Inquisitors, which just seems like a world-building patch so that you can have like mini bosses or the evil Jedi that aren't evil Jedi, you know?
Yeah, like, let's have them be Force users with red lightsabers who fight Jedi. Like, oh, a Sith. We don't call them that.
No, it can't be that. It's got to be something else. And so I've never liked the Inquisitors. And Sable Act says the Inquisitors suck. That's a Disneyfication.
Well, that came out of Disney. Well, by the way, I think Lucas did have something with Inquisitors. I think there's a tie-in there. However, I've never been a fan of them. Like you, Heath, I feel like they are stormtrooper Siths. You know, just these disposable villains that look menacing, look cool, but don't ever really do much. There are parts of Rebels that they're okay. There's some plot lines that work. Some of them look cool, but I've never been a fan. I just have never been a fan of the Inquisitors. Some people really like them. I think the idea of them could have been cool if they didn't have lightsabers. I love this. I would love to see perhaps maybe just this one sect of dark Force users that use all of their powers for interrogation, mind control, some sort of sorcerer type, small, interrogation-based group that are very good at what they do of getting information out of you. I think that would have been interesting. But yeah, I don't want to see red lightsabers unless it's a Sith, because even this show does that. Now with them, they have kind of orangish red lightsabers. You're cheapening lightsabers.
Well, you are completely cheap. Yes.
Yeah, like
we've been cheapening lightsabers. Now that George Lucas had that problem too. I mean, George Lucas started that when you've got Darth Maul has a double-bladed lightsaber, and he started the arms race with lightsabers.
That's a good way to say it.
The lightsaber arms race, yes. Because even then, we've got to have General Grievous with a whole bunch of lightsabers.
Actually, that's a really good point. Now, I'll say this. I think it worked with Darth Maul, and I think over time it has sort of worked with Grievous even though it's much, 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 much weaker. But do you remember in 1999 when the trailer came out to Phantom Menace? And I remember being in theaters when the Star Wars trailer came on for Phantom Menace, and Maul does that, and then the other one goes, people are like, "What?" Like people were freaking out over that double lightsaber. So I feel like that one worked, but you're right. It did start an arms race because now you've got rotating lightsabers. You've got in Rebels. Do you know that in Rebels they fly? Whoa, 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 whoa. They're like helicopter blades.
Heard that. Yeah, that's just.
Yeah, James, right? Wasn't it? It was the most intense communal moment of 1999, possibly within 5 years, plus or minus. when Maul lit that second lightsaber half. That was epic.
Right. Right. I'm saying Scott Graham says Rule of Two was a huge world building mistake on Lucas's part. Yes, it was very bad. If you want to have lots of adventures with Jedi level baddies, Inquisitors should have been Sith. So yeah, it's a ham-fisted. James says it's a ham-fisted way to deviate from the Rule of Two without deviating from the Rule of Two. World building mistake, absolutely. And then to put one of them in medieval armor from our world.
Rule of Two should have been more of a tactic. Like a strategy of two. That if you want to infiltrate large groups, if you don't have the numbers for a frontal assault, if you can't take on the Galactic Republic, you use the strategy of two. A master and an apprentice, and you infiltrate. You could have done something like that to modify it to make it work.
Or say there can only be one Sith Grandmaster and his apprentice the master, or something like that.
Okay, yeah. Like the leadership has a different structure. I would have been happy with that. That would have worked great.